Bob Arum finally responds to Keith Thurman, and it looks like more bad news for Terrence Crawford and his future if he stays with Top Rank.
Let's talk about Terrence Crawford. What's his next move, Bob?
Well, Crawford we want to make a Spence fight. And, I think we would be willing to make a 2-fight deal with PBC to have a Crawford fight either Porter or Thurman or somebody like that, and then fight Spence or really go into a Spence fight. The problem with Crawford fighting any of the PBC fighters is it's so expensive, and it really isn't a pay-per-view fight. Yeah, I saw that. What the hell is he talking about? That I'm being cheap. I would tell Thurman, hey, have somebody else promote the fight, let them lose money, and I promise I'll buy a ringside ticket. Like other promoters suffered during this pandemic without the revenue stream of a live gate, without, in the United States, the pay-per-view is limited because people like to do it and make it parties. But I am not going into our resources and pay a fighter a lot more money than is available in a particular fight. But don't tell me I got to do the fight and go into my pocket for millions of dollars to make the fight happen. Why? What's the reason for that?
What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. Now, make sure you guys smash the like button. You guys heard the clip at the beginning. That's a recent interview, link in the description, with Sir Bob Arum of Top Rank. And I just want to give some thoughts on what he was saying. First of all, in case you live under a rock or don't watch my channel, which you guys should all be subscribed to, Keith Thurman did a rant where he cussed out Bob Arum and said Terrence Crawford is one of your best fighters and you're not giving him no dope fights. You can't afford the PBC guys. Bob Arum, that was his response to that. Now, Bob Arum is acting like he's in the dark regarding what is Keith Thurman talking about. He made statements like that in this interview. You could watch it in its entirety. And he's saying, hey, what is this guy talking about? But I thought Keith was actually pretty straightforward, and there was a level of clarity to what he was saying. He says stuff like, all of your biggest fighters left you. That's pretty cut and dry. And then he cited some of them who had left. Manny Pacquiao. Floyd Mayweather. Easy work. Oscar De La Hoya. Cotto. Andy Ruiz. Chavez Jr. Mikey Garcia, and so on and so forth. And I think Top Rank is good at grooming fighters, especially when you're young, hot amateur standout and stuff like that. But what they've struggled with, at least recently, is taking that fighter over to crossover mainstream success. And then now with Bob Arum doing this interview and giving his 2 cents and response, it doesn't look good for Terrence Crawford, if I'm being honest. It doesn't look good because Terrence Crawford is a guy who has already depleted and exhausted all of the real options on his side of the street. The only thing left is that people want to see is Terrence Crawford fight meaningful fights. And we know PBC got the top welterweight names outside of Crawford, but Crawford can't clone himself or fight himself, which means he's stuck. Now, Ego Stradamus predicted this. I told you this moment would come, and it's here now. This was very easy to foreshadow and see that we were going to get to this point in Terrence Crawford's career. He already beat the Benavidez. His first fight was a title fight with Jeff Horn. He already beat the Mean Machine, who was a mandatory. And the thing that Top Rank definitely needs to work on is the backstory or the storyline. None of Terrence Crawford's fights, based on the level of competition and whatnot, have really a continuation. Like, nobody really that I know would want to see a Jeff Horn 2, Jose Benavidez 2, a Mean Machine 2, right? Or Amir Khan Part 2. There's like no actual storyline that could be followed. And that's partly because Crawford is so good, and the level of people that he's fighting at the time in which he's fighting him, like Kell Brook, it's so decisive of victory, it doesn't warrant a rematch. He stopped every person at welterweight. And it wasn't even like, oh, he stopped them, but the fight was competitive. You know, there are a couple fights, Benavidez and Mean Machine particularly, that were quasi-competitive, but that's about it. So based on what Bob Arum is saying, it's going to be very telling to see what Terrence Crawford decides to do next, because in response to Keith Thurman, he says, why should I go in my pocket and pay a fighter? And that's just such an archaic, old school way, old media way of getting out of the fight. You know, it doesn't make sense to offer Kell Brook, who, like, if Bob Arum was talking about the business, but let's analyze the business. So the business of boxing has you pay Amir Khan a reported $5 to $7 million, yet a guy who beat Amir Khan, Danny Garcia, there were rumors and rumblings that they sent an offer to Danny Garcia's dad, of all people, instead of Al Heyman, and it was $3 million. At the time, this is a little while ago, at the time, Danny Garcia said, what? I made that in the Rod Salka fight, so you got to do better. So Keith Thurman wasn't way off the mark. You guys can find all these videos on YouTube. Danny Garcia, he had like a red blazer on, and I think he was promoting the Red Cash fight or something. And he said, I made $3 million in the Red Cash. You got to do better. And that's pretty much what Keith Thurman said. So once again, why would you pay Amir Khan $5 to $7 million, put Crawford Khan on pay-per-view, not even promote it good, and then at the end of the day, Crawford has lousy numbers on the fight with Amir Khan. In addition, it doesn't really move the needle for his career and certify or establish. It actually ended really bad because Amir Khan found a way out, and it just wasn't a traditional ending, you know. And then you're going to offer Danny Garcia $3 million less than Khan, and he knocked Khan out on HBO. Same thing with Kell Brook. Bob Arum says he's like, you know, great with numbers and what makes sense, and Thurman, what he's saying doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to me, because even from the business, if we're just looking at risk versus loss and ROI and all this stuff, then how could you offer Kell Brook, who people were skeptical that he'd be the same welterweight that he was in 2017 before Errol Spence stopped him, you know, in 2016 before Gennady had no guys stopped him, and you pay him $2 million but offer Sean Porter $1 million? You know, to me, that type of stuff is not really adding up. So I think Bob Arum is just being defiant. It's going to be very hard for Terrence Crawford to, you know, get the respect that he deserves unless he finds a way to break free. Bob Arum keeps talking about Spence and a 2-fight deal with Spence, but Spence is at least a candidate to possibly get Pacquiao. So how are you going to do a 2-fight deal for Crawford? You know, it's just like when it comes to Crawford's career, it's a bunch of hyperbole and coulda, shoulda, woulda. Oh, we wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao in Qatar, but the fight never happened. Oh, we want to do a 2-fight deal, you know? So Keith Thurman, he was cooking. He says you can't afford the PBC fighters. And Bob Arum didn't really rebuttal that. He just saying it doesn't make sense. And in the game, the pandemic is the pandemic. My YouTube channel, other YouTube channels, we're all in the pandemic. But you're a multi-millionaire, worth whatever you're worth. You gotta produce. Nobody cares, you know. In 2021, nobody cares. Life is tough. Life is hard. So if you can't produce, then you're going to continue to lose money, and could have bought a house in Beverly Hills and stuff with Terrence Crawford. But this, doesn't look too great for Terrence Crawford, because at the end of the day, it doesn't sound like it sounded like Keith Thurman was right. Bob Arum is not willing to spring for a major fight. Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, or AKA as Keith said, we're not fighting for discounts and you can't afford us. So what is Crawford gonna do? Just hold this pipe dream open that he's gonna get Pacquiao or Errol Spence, none of which has happened to this part. And then Errol Spence, you look at that situation, Errol Spence said 70-30, man down, 60-40, I'm the A side. And Crawford doesn't feel that Errol's the A side. So they have that obstacle or hump to hurdle, So with what Bob's saying, I can't wait to see Terrence Crawford's next move. I'm just going to leave it at that. Close this video. Let me know what you guys think, but doesn't sound too optimistic if Terrence Crawford stays with Top Rank, because they don't have any options, and Bob Arum sounds like stuck in his ways. Al Davis, what he was to the Raiders, that's Bob Arum at Top Rank. He does things a certain way. He said, I'm not reaching in my pocket. It's not about the fans. It don't make sense to me. So he's going to continue to do that. And Crawford will continue to fall off the radar in this new division, because you can't be undisputed. You can't unify unless you fight a PBC guy. Bars. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We'll definitely talk about this more. Subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest content. I drop some dope stuff. 2021 is lit. Holla. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego. A storm is coming. Conor McGregor, the rematch is here. Poirier versus McGregor 2, only on ESPN Plus. Use my link in the description. UFC 257. I'll see you at the fights.
Who the fuck is that guy?
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.